let's have the conversation where $65 makes sense, because that is a conversation to be had. I think one of the scariest things as an analyst of Palantir is the TAM question. Like, Palantir literally can target every kind of software business there are. I mean, and it's just too big of a question to even attempt to conceptualize. Like, I can't go after it. Like, I can't, like, if we just consider all the opportunities laid ahead for Palantir, ads, BI, business and analytics, ERP systems, CRM, IT, SM systems, e-commerce. I mean, the TAM is truly endless, and I think no one can truly conceptualize it. I mean, we can just look back and be like, well, growing at 30% kind of can make sense, but no one can really like attach it to some kind of a TAM expansion for Palantir. Like, when I do my valuation, I'm kind of a chicken in a sense, because for the government, I just attach it to the Department of Defense spending and the budget going towards AI, and then I extrapolate that. For the commercial business, I just take AI software market projections, and then I just attach a market share for Palantir. But I don't really do like all this scary work where I look like at, okay, in terms of CRM systems, what's the market opportunity there? What's the market opportunity in ERP, in BI, in ads, in ITSM? I mean, the TAM question is just so scary. And to date, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen anyone try to tackle that. Not analysts, not individual investors, not the retail, like no one, because it's just too big of a question. But Palantir can essentially go after all of that. Corp has been pretty straightforward. Like, I'm gonna take the whole market. We're gonna take the whole market, and no one really can conceptualize. Okay, what does taking the whole market mean? So there is a world where $65 today can be justified. It's just that I can't tell that story because I don't have that deep enough understanding. But what are you guys thought on this like endless TAM conversation? I mean, and even building out completely new software avenues that we can't even think about right now, because they are developing more and more platforms, going after more. I mean, Apollo is barely talked about as a deployment software. I mean, they just do so much, and with so little resources, as we've talked about in a couple of weeklies now. R&D spend isn't really increasing, but they're pushing out all this stuff. I mean, we had the DevCon now where they like empower buildings so they can even like be have a marketplace and collect fee revenue. I mean, where does it end? Like, I just want to get some thoughts from you guys on that question, because it's one I'm having a really difficult time to actually conceptualize myself. So I think it's a good conversation to have.
Look, I think the potential from the beginning was, I can't say clear, but we understood as investors, okay, like the potential for this company is truly massive. What is even massive, more massive, is like how much more there is right now that we could add to those expectations thanks to the development of new products. Like when we started figuring out, oh, like Palantir can almost solve any potential issue in the enterprise space, in the government space, we were thinking of Foundry. And then with AAP, we have like a new layer, new massive layer of potential revenues that could be added on top of that. And now with Warp Speed is just like the little piece that could make us think, oh, like we were thinking about more Palantir being like the operating system, data platform, data analytics and stuff. But now it seems like, okay, like Palantir is obviously obsessed into taking all the pieces of the software enterprise software stack, like going on the end against SAP, Oracle, all these legacy guys that are not just analytics, but they're more like software to really like deploying resources, into perform quality checks and stuff like that. So basically, the TAM. Do you remember like the picture of like the TAM of Palantir with the cycle? It's like every year is just boom, 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 boom.
I'm gonna find that.
So once we know like the potential TAM is massive, it is really a matter of how much can Palantir acquire of that. And there was this sentence from Karp that we build software that is like 5 years ahead of the market, and we are making essentially a very risky strategy, because by doing that, we are essentially betting on the fact that at a certain point, there will be that market fit between what the market really needs and what we offer, but between needing something and realizing you need that something, there could be a gap that made the adoption of Foundry relatively hard to digest. But now this could change dramatically. And I'm referring to the picture I shared before. Like now the interest in AI is so high that it makes clearer and clearer that companies want, on top of needing this stuff, to actually work in between. And we are seeing the government side accelerating, because the government is accepting that in order to deter another World War, they need to use AI into autonomous systems, into deploying like their own resources and stuff. But also companies realize, oh, we need this stuff to become competitive. And what if, like what we started seeing as, US commercial growth of 50% is actually very good. But what if, like now we are seeing the network effects kicking in, and rather than expecting a rather like a gradual deceleration, we see like, oh, like the market fit is so strong, then we got like an acceleration from here. Is it even possible?
Yeah. I think one of the only ways to really value it right now is TAM. And I agree with you, Amir. No one has been able to come up with a concrete analysis around TAM because it's such a hard thing to conceptualize. I think Mariana kind of got close to it on the $55 price target she put out. She said a juggernaut is emerging where Palantir will be a foundational decision-making platform for new types of technologies. I mean, she even mentioned quantum computing as some mechanism that Palantir will play a role in. And so I think if you're buying it at 65 right now, you're buying it because you believe you can't miss the story. The story is expensive, but you don't care because you can't miss it. And the potential of the story is only being seen through a few stocks, one of them being NVIDIA on the hardware side, and then on the software side, like really Microsoft, maybe Google. Those guys are in a totally different league. But in terms of a company that's still relatively small compared to what people think will become normal for trillion-dollar companies to exist, multiple of them, not just 5 or 6 of them in the next decade, then Palantir is there. And they just have a fundamentally differentiated approach. You know, Chris Camillo came on the podcast a couple of weeks ago on the channel, and he said he doesn't give a shit about PE, price to sales, because he just thinks they're so differentiated that the market's eventually going to go with them. And he turned out to be right. He said that at 35. Now we're at 65. And so far, it seems like the market truly does not care. I mean, $150 billion market cap for $2.8 billion in revenue, $500 million in profit, 33% of that profit being from treasury bill net interest income. There's no way you can really make sense of the numbers outside of saying they will grow so rapidly into this emerging market, and no one will expect that growth like no one expected with NVIDIA. And then it'll be one of those stories of like, oh, how did I not see this coming? And I think no one wants to be afraid of being left out.
And are you comfortable investing into that at these levels?
No, not personally for me. No.
I mean, that's the point. Like, if the stock keeps going up this much, it's because someone is actually buying that. And from what I see from the community, like the retail investor community, at least, like the core we see on YouTube, X, like they're mostly holding rather than buying. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my perception. So who is actually buying here?
Well, I think the part of it is the fact that people are holding, right? I mean, if people were taking profits, then, I mean, granted, you could say and claim that Carp and Teal are kind of have performed, I guess, a headwind against where we actually are today in the share price. But if you actually saw a mass exodus of retail investors to institutional, I think we might still be in the 45s or 50s. But the fact that I think everyone's still holding on because they see the true potential, or they've been at least watching too much emit maybe and not willing to share or sell, I mean, then I think that's why pretty much every share that has been on the market has been gobbled up by institutions, knowing that they're going to need it for S&P 500 inclusion. They're going to need it now for NASDAQ inclusion. And so I think that's really where all the shares have been gobbled up. So anytime somebody is selling off anything, it's immediately getting bought up.